Welcome, everyone. We are starting our daily learning in the book of Mishlei, the book of Proverbs, chapter 19. And again, we are here every day at 12 o'clock. Please join us. Thank you so much for joining. And we are starting chapter 19, verse 1. King Solomon speaks always about a combination of the importance of sophistication and the importance of simplicity. Even though those seem like a contradiction, nonetheless, they are both very important. On the one hand, it's important to be wise. It's important to look at everything you're doing, to think it through, to do things with prudence. On the other hand, wisdom is only good to the extent that it's done with innocence, with good intentions, and with really wanting to do the right thing. So chapter 19, verse 1, King Solomon says, Tov rash holech betumo. It is better to be impoverished, walking in your innocence, in your simplicity, meikesh sfatav v'hu ksil, than being someone that is deceptive and not straightforward, since that is something that is foolish. Next, King Solomon continues, Gam belo dat nefesh lo tov. You may think, therefore, it's not a great idea to be sophisticated. It's not a great idea to have wisdom. King Solomon says, no, don't make that mistake. You should be smart. You should be prudent. You should think things through, but you should do so with a measure of innocence and good intentions. Gam belo dat nefesh lo tov. It is not good to have a soul that is not wise and thinking. And someone who rushes with his feet is sinful. Next is a very, very powerful verse that is an answer to so many questions we have in life. It says, it goes up as follows. Verse 3, Iveret adam tesalef dalko. A person's heart, a person's foolishness will distort their path. Sometimes there are mistakes that we make, and we make them because they are our choice. And who do we get angry at when the consequences come? We get angry at God. So many times people say, well, how can God do this? How can God do that? And really what is happening to them that they're so upset about is a consequence of bad judgment and a bad decision. And so King Solomon says, don't do something and then be angry at God with the consequences that you brought about. And the example that Rashi cites is the example of someone that, the example of the brothers of Joseph. Joseph's brothers sold him away. They acted in a terrible fashion. And then when they come to Egypt and when they get taken into custody, what do they say? What's their first response? They say, what has God done to us? Thank you. I appreciate everyone that's here. Thank you so much for being with us. So Joseph says, Joseph's brothers say, what has God done to us? Really, they should only be angry at themselves. They are the ones who brought about this situation on themselves. And yet, so many times in life, we have, no worries. So many times in life, we have a situation where we are angry at God for something that we have done. Joseph's brothers got angry. They say, what has God done to us? How did we find ourselves in this situation in Egypt? And yet, really, the only ones that they should have been angry at is at themselves. They should have been upset at selling him out. And so, remember, a lot of times in life, people say, why has God done this? Why has God done that? When in fact, it's all about a mistake that they had made. Next verse is Hon Yosif Reim Rabim. If a person has a fortune of money, then they will have a lot of friends. Obviously, you have to be skeptical when you see those friends. If someone's very wealthy and has lots of friends, you got to wonder why everyone's being that person's friend. Hon Yosif Reim Rabim. The wealth will add many friends on. V'dal mere'eu yipared. And someone that is impoverished will be separated from his own friends. So it's not a good thing, but it's the reality of life that if someone has wealth, that adds to them many friends. If someone is impoverished, that often leads to them being separated from their friends. Next is verse 5. King Solomon says, Ed shkarim lo yinakev. Someone is a false witness. Sometimes they think, oh, I have finished my testimony, I'm done with court, let me leave and it's over. Ed shkarim lo yinakev. King Solomon says, no, if you are a witness and you say false things, you will not be exempt or cleansed from that. And someone who spreads false rumors and negative things about other people that are not true is never going to escape that consequence of that action that they've taken. Next is verse 6, also very, very self-evident and a sad reality of life. Many people will await to see the face of the benevolent, the philanthropist, the generous person. If you go, you see a generous person that's generous with their wealth, there's always people there. They throw a party, everyone's there. Someone's getting married in their family, everyone comes to participate in their joy, and obviously that's not something that's great. And every person is considered a friend to the person who gives away money. So often people will say, oh, my good friend this, my good friend that, and they're talking about something wealthy, and everyone is their friend. Now, the following is really sad. Kol achei rash sneuhu. The poor person, even his own brothers, despise him. Kol achei rash sneuhu. Af ki mireu rachaku mimeno. Even his good friends abandon the poor person. And so the poor person is inflicted doubly because A, he's in his situation, and B, people don't want to be his friend. However, when someone says, that person is my friend, this person is my friend, and they think that being friends with a wealthy person is what's going to save them, it doesn't mean anything. So many times you see people, thank you. So many times you see people that they're running around all day being friends with rich people, and yet when push comes to shove and they need the help that they need, that friendship will not materialize. And so they sort of wasted their time. So they chase and they say, oh, I'm friends with this guy, we're friends with that guy. But the bottom line is, when they need to actually come around with those friendships are often not going to be there for them. And so what kind of friendship can help you? So King Solomon says, Koneh lev ohev nafsho. If someone is going to make sure that they have a true friendship, if someone is going to work to make sure that they have a true friendship, someone that's going to be with them and care for them, that is someone who cherishes their own soul. Koneh lev ohev nafsho. If you acquire someone else's heart, then you're in essence loving yourself, because that is something that is so valuable and it will be with you your whole life. Shomer tvuna limtzot tov. It's a wise thing, and it's going to end up doing good for you. Next, we continue with something that he mentioned before, verse 9. Ed shkarim. A false witness will not be forgiven, because the false witness didn't just sin. The false witness actually did something that had bad consequences. And someone who spreads lies is going to be lost. Next is speaking about the concept of someone who's foolish and does not use their resources properly. It is inappropriate for the foolish to have pleasure, meaning it's usually not going to be something that is constructive. It's also not appropriate for the slave, the servant, to dominate and rule the nobles of the city. The next verse is really beautiful. A person's brain makes their temper more extended, meaning if you are smart, you will not rush to judge, you will not rush to say something. So if you're smart, then you will not rush. You won't do anything that's, just hasty. The most glorious thing for you, this cannot be overemphasized. You know what the biggest compliment is for a person? What's the most amazing thing you can say about a person? That is if they have the ability to forgive someone. If someone is able to move forward, if someone's able to, even though they've been hurt, even though they've been offended, etc., they can move on from that. That is the biggest compliment and sign of wisdom of that person. So if someone has the ability to forgive and overlook things, then that's something that is the greatest show of wisdom. Avor pesha, to even though the person has 100% wronged you and they are most certainly in the wrong, nonetheless being able to just move on and let go of that is a tremendously important virtue. Next is verse 12, is the opposite of that. Nam kikfir zaf melech. The anger of a king is like the roar of a lion. You don't want to get in the king's way. And just like the dew lands on the grass blade, so too is the grace and goodwill of the king, which basically, translating to our own lives, the more powerful a person is, the more impactful a person is, the more their own mood and life is going to have an impact on others, the more their forgiveness matters. So if you are someone who is interacting with other people, then make sure that you are in grace, because that your lack of grace will affect others, and your good grace will also affect others. Next is Havot le'aviv ben ksil. A foolish son is a disruption for their parent. It's like something that's gonna bother them. And also, if they have a fight in the household, that's also gonna disrupt their peace. Verse 14 is just a very, very beautiful verse. It is not often that you have verses that speak about the concept of like, some people have a belief that when people meet, it's meant to be, etc. So there's very few verses that actually back that up, but this is one of them. Bait v'hon nachalat avot. A huge house and wealth is something that you can inherit. Umehashem isha maskelet. But having a smart wife, meeting a good spouse, there's no wealth in the world that can land you that inheritance. So many times you see people that are, they have all the wealth in the world, they have all the assets in the world, and yet when it comes to finding a spouse, they end up making bad choices. So bait, this is a very important, very famous verse, bait v'hon nachalat avot. The house and wealth are the share of the of someone's inheritance. Umehashem isha maskelet. And a wise wife is a gift from God. Next is verse 15. Atzlat apil tardema. Laziness drags laziness. Laziness generates laziness. Atzlat apil tardema. If someone's lazy, it puts them to sleep. And if someone is not hardworking, and if someone is cutting corners all the time, then that soul is going to starve. I want to take this opportunity to thank you for being here today. I very much appreciate it, and I do not take it for granted. I really very much thank you. Comments and feedback always welcome, and Bezrat Hashem, God willing, we will continue tomorrow. Thank you so much for being here and participating. Thank you so much. Very much appreciated. Thank you.